right now, I'm ready to start. They jump in when they get here. And I'm actually happy that Kollyns is here because Kollyns, like she mentioned, she wants to be a coach. And I have one high school, college, AAU, and someone that's like an executive overseas. That's you, Vanessa. for her Spanish team. And like I said, Kollyns is something she wants to get into the coaching profession. Maybe you guys, because you guys all played high level, can you guys help Kollyns on getting her into the next level as far as coaching is concerned? Coach King, because you played at Rhode Island a couple years ago, and can you tell her how was your transition from when you started as a professional player, because you did professional, and then you went to how did you get into the college profession?
My professional opportunity got robbed from me right as I was getting ready to go. I wound up tearing my meniscus twice, so I was just like, I guess that's the end of it for me and not the path that I was supposed to be on. So I actually wound up going home. And my first year that I was home, I kind of kicked it a little bit and was like, this is great. Like, I don't have to run around, do all these crazy things. But then I got bored of that. And then I just decided to find a job in anything at that point. So my best friend was a manager at Red Robin. I hopped on there part-time. And then a friend of mine, her dad worked at a financial planning company. My major was business, so I hopped in on that and was kind of doing that. Got into AAU for a summer, coached some pretty special kids that went on to play at Syracuse and Ole Miss and stuff like that. So I loved the AAU circuit. I loved all that. But then my college coach, assistant at the time, got the head coaching job at my alma mater and hit me up and was like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just on my lunch break. He's like, no, what are you doing, like, with your life? Like, what are you doing? I was like, bro, I don't know. He was like, come back and work with me. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, come back. Let's get this thing, kind of going. So I was pretty lucky in that sense of things, that he just hit me up and gave me a call and thought that highly of me to kind of bring me on board at the ripe age of 22. So 16 years later, still in the business and just keep plugging along. And now we've reconnected after being a part of different universities and institutions. And now I'm here. So kind of a little bit unorthodox, kind of really fortunate and really lucky. But I mean, I wouldn't trade the path that I went on to get here.
Kev? Unmute yourself, Kev.
All right, I'm unmuted now. So what am I speaking on? My path, like my transitional path?
Yeah, because you did 12 to 13 years across the water also prior.
Yeah, I played 10 years overseas. I played in Germany for 5 years, France for 2 years, Poland in the beginning of my career, as well as Puerto Rico. And in terms of like transitioning, I was fortunate because my best friend, his brother is a principal of a school. And, I think, I'm not sure how, a majority of people here have played professional or have some professional playing experience.
Yeah.
I think when you're in that state of mind, you're so focused on being an athlete and your goals within the season that sometimes you lose sight of, one day this thing ends. And if I could go back, I mean, like the young lady spoke before, I was really fortunate that I had friends who helped me with the transition. I was able to get into guidance counseling. So I'm a counselor in my school now as well as the head coach. And I had a connection, so to speak. But if I could go back, I would have been more proactive in being prepared for that transition. I would have utilized my resources within my, my alumni base or friends or professionals. Something that I found out the hard way is, when you get out of playing and you don't do that groundwork, you're literally starting from the bottom, and you have to, go back to school again or whatever the case may be. So I'm at the point now that I finally just finished. I got my second master's in mental health therapy. And I'm at the point now where I'm kind of establishing my career. But in terms of advice, I would say just, try to be proactive in keeping relationships with people, especially within your school base. Obviously, if you're a high-level athlete, there's a lot of people who know who you are, and you may not know who they are yet, that would love to know, to establish a relationship with you, start reaching out. And in the process of reaching out, instead of like shooting for the hookup initially, shoot for the relationship. Like speak to them in terms of trying to seek advice, and just getting to know them as a person. I think the hookups come later on. Once you have the relationship with the person and they can steer you in the right direction and you do what you're supposed to do and you're professional, which in order to be an athlete, you already know that you are. That's when the hookup stage, because you kind of progress quickly rather than just jump into a spot where you want to be right away. I don't know if that was long-winded answer or not, but that's kind of how my path has gone and what I've learned from it.
Aryn just joined us, and she just finished her internship, or she's currently in the middle of a overseas experience. Can you tell the people about what you're doing now?
Hi, I'm Aryn. So I just came back from Ireland. I'm in the same program as Kollyns. Right now I'm finishing up my master's in international business. And I'm still in the phase of, do I still want to play basketball, or do I still, or do I just want to work? But right now, I think I want to work internationally. So I've just been applying for jobs overseas and stuff like that.
Does the organization that you work for, do they help you as far as international resume building and things of that nature? Yes, like Sports Trainers Life does help. There's a program in Dubai that they're affiliated with. It's like a 9-month business internship, which I'm looking forward to applying to. I think Dubai is an amazing place, especially since we vacation there, and so it will be a great experience. Yeah. Gotcha. We're going to skip over you, Kollyns, because you already spoke briefly. Ms. Lane, can you speak about your time and coming back when you landed back from NYU back in New York? And your transition to the real world?
Yeah, it's that real world stuff is a smack in the face when you're used to being the man all the time. So I graduated from NYU, went over and played in Brazil for a season. When I came home, I just tried to reconnect started playing semi-pro. Thinking back and reflecting back, I think it's super important to stay involved. And for whatever reason, I've always been involved in some way, shape, or form, whether it was through myself playing, participating, coaching, my kids, somehow always connected to the sports world. And you stay visible that way. You build the networks and the connections and the relationships that way. And people begin to see you more than just a player. So I came back. When I came home from Brazil, my family relocated up to Albany, which was like in the sticks, like way far removed from anything remotely familiar to basketball for me, but then also connected to Siena College that way. And again, still trying to play, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had majored in communications and public relations. I chose that as a major because I felt like that was the most malleable, like the most applicable. You could apply that to almost any profession. And it served me well thus far. I've held multiple positions in different companies. The transition into the real world, I was still playing. I played up until about the age of, like high level, until about the age of 28, 29. And at that time I was offered the opportunity to go over to either France or Israel to continue playing. And I had my son at that point, he was 3. And I had just taken a full-time job in a corporation, commodities corporation. And I had to decide, like, do I want to give up everything that I've just worked for, trying to establish myself on my own 2 feet, out of mom's house, still wanting to play on a serious competitive level, but am I ready to give everything up to go on a 6-month stint or 6-month assignment and then come back and kind of have to figure it out all over again? So that kind of made the decision for me. I would have loved to have gone to explore a little bit more and play in either France or Israel, but I chose to stay in the corporate world, and I actually stayed at that company for 19 years. As I said, my degree was in communications, but I also had a strong background, a numerical background. Like, I don't know, you start to learn things about yourself, like what you're good at. And I'm one of those people that have like that weird, like photographic memory. Like I'll see a number, like don't show me a social security number because I remember it type of stuff. And that worked for me. So in the position, the company that I went to, I started working in the field of finance. Started out as an executive assistant with the chief financial officer. So again, being able to utilize my background in communications, was able to partner with different departments within the company. So again, a common theme I'm seeing is being visible, like participating in things that keep you visible. And as people begin to see you, they see what you're capable of, and that opens more doors and opportunities for you. So I stayed with that company for, like I said, 19 years. And I had a pretty good run. I just recently changed positions to another commodities company. But the biggest thing is going to be networking. That's what I found out. That's what I tell the kids that I've coached. I coached AAU, I've coached the junior college level. And as you go through the process with the different experiences, you start to feel like what works for you and what you really want to do, because just because you're a player doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach.
Right.
Doesn't mean you want to spend that much, how much time is involved. Doesn't mean you want to spend that much time. The young lady, Aryn, you said you want to study international business.
Yes.
That's huge. I mean, having the opportunity to be overseas, it opens your eyes to different experiences. But again, the key is staying visible and that networking, because that's what opens the doors. People need to see who you are other than just the athlete on the floor.
Now, Vanessa, thank you, Ms. Lane, because you're currently in a position where you're a year or two away from maybe retiring and coming back to America. So you're going to have to reestablish your ties that you had over your time. Luckily, you've been having your basketball camps throughout, so your area pretty much knows who you are. What's the plan for you? Because you're doing 13 years across the water and stuff like that. What's your plan?
Good question. Okay, so I've been overseas for 13 years. Started my career a little bit in the WNBA. So I felt like with the network that I've established, I'm hoping to transition in the next phase. I recently just started my master's, so but I'm kind of like in between, because like you said, I'm probably about to retire pretty soon. So I decided to start my master's last year, and I should be finished soon. I just wanted to put myself in a higher position than just, okay, I'm an athlete and, I graduated from a great school. Now trying to add to that, I just always think that it's great to put yourself in the best position that you can be. As an athlete, you're always going to stand out of the crowd anyways, but it's great to have that education along with you. So basically I have a few opportunities. I was thinking like you, Aryn, because I had gotten an opportunity to be a part of my pro team for the last 3 years. And I got really close with the president of the club, and he offered me some opportunities to be in the management team over there after I'm done. But I'm still contemplating if I want to be in Spain or I want to come back to the States. So I have some decisions to make. However, I would like to, probably coach for a few, because I've gotten offers to do that as well. So right now I'm just basically weighing my options to see what is going to be best suited for me, because as Lainey said, like you can be a great player and not really the greatest coach. However, with having my camp for the last 12 years, I think, working with young kids and helping them, it's definitely different at the college level, because I've seen some college players there. It's a different way to get through to them. So you have to be ready to, develop different kind of relationships with these players to be able to have them trust you to help them, because we can't always get on the court to say, sometimes you might get pissed off and said, man, I just want to get on the court and show you, like, you have to actually be able to, you know, verbalize what you're trying to get them to do. And I think definitely as a coach and an athlete, that's been like one of the harder things. Even with coaching the kids, I sometimes want to get out there and push them around and say, this is how you actually do it, you know? So I've been I've been learning over the years how to communicate less as a player and more so as a coach. So, so definitely keep that in mind as far as when you're going to transition to that coaching. As far as me, I just, you know, I got some decisions to make as far as that, but I'm definitely thinking probably in the next year to retire, if not before.
I have a question I asked Kevin earlier today. If you had to do it all over again, would you stay overseas for 10 years or stay home in America for those 10 years? You think that those 10 years hurt you as far as your profession is concerned? Right? If coaching is a profession, you think, Kevin?
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I would definitely have cut my career at least 2 years shorter when I wasn't nearly as athletic or as good, and my money kind of declined, and I was just kind of holding on at that point, just trying to collect checks, so to speak. And I was actually encouraged by people who were mentors of mine to consider coming back home earlier. But the issue in my case was I wasn't clear on what I wanted to do, because like I mentioned before, I was just so focused on basketball up until that point. It had been my life essentially since I was 18 years old.
Right.
And what I would have changed, maybe not necessarily have came back earlier, but I would have given it thought a lot earlier about what this process is going to look like, what it's going to entail. And I think, once, I know that Denise is a coach, and something that I've considered now that I'm a coach is this is the type of stuff that we should be preparing the kids that we are involved with for, that we may not have gotten the advice, that sort of advice. Like, okay, you need to start thinking about these things. What are you interested in? Is it basketball? If it is basketball, these are the types of occupations that are possible within the sport. What part of the game do you like? Is it the managerial side? Is it on the court like Vanessa was speaking about, like they want to touch and feel, like that could be player development, and you just start to pave a path for yourself. I love my experiences personally. My family got to travel the world with me. I got to see a lot of parts of the world, even towards the end when I played in France, and it was a country I had never played in. So I don't know if I regret making that decision to go out there and play, but I certainly would have given more thought about what the process would have been once I retired.
Kollyns, do you have any questions for the esteemed panel?
Yeah, actually, so in regards to coaching, I did a little coaching this year. Actually, I was given the opportunity to coach my club's U16 and U18 team, and I found it really difficult, like kind of how Vanessa touched on, making that transition from player to coach with communication, but also with creating boundaries, because in our program, some of the U16 and U18 girls were also my teammates for our club team. So it was kind of hard to create that boundary of, like, when we stepped in practice, like, they'll be talking on the side, and like, it was also a different cultural difference. Some countries don't take basketball as serious. So you'd be like there'd be times where like they'll be talking, I'd like so want to go like, get on the line. Like, I'm tired of this. Like, we gonna run this out because we're gonna run it until you're too tired and all you can talk about is basketball, because I'm done with this. But it wasn't something like I would have my assistant coach there and she'd be like, oh, well, that's not how things work. So I just wanted to know like how you as coaches were able to kind of create your like boundary line with your players and kind of going like, this is how things are going to work in my gym when we're in between the lines, but keeping that aspect of you want your kids to be able to come to you with stuff. So not like kind of shutting yourself off from them and creating a barrier, but being like, you have to earn my respect,
I'm going to throw that one to Coach King, because she started coaching relatively young and she had just finished playing. Coach King?
Yeah, it was hard for me. I actually coached 3 of my teammates when I first went back to college. Yeah, How about that? And I got hired during homecoming weekend, so I was pretty pissed off about that. You know, had some friends like, come to this party, like da 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 da. I'm like, I can't come. They're like, nah, come. And I'm like, nah, because I'm gonna see you in the hallway and you're gonna be like, yo, that was crazy. So I mean, for me, my boundaries kind of started a little bit earlier with making those type of decisions. And then after I got involved, you know, with all of the other girls that I coached, I had a built-in level of respect just because I coached 2 of my teammates. So they kind of knew like my leadership role, my leadership style, and basically not to try me. I mean, to be honest with you, they had that respect. And I think for me, because they had that respect for me, it trickled down to the other players that were similar in age to me. But it is hard. It is a thin line, but there's going to be instances or situations that come up and nothing gets people to help you to realize that you mean business more than a quick check. You know what I mean? So whatever that is, if it's get on the line, if it's some type of other type of punishment, but I think it's also good that they will be able to talk to you, but they understand that I'm going to try her, but you can't get walked over. You know what I'm saying? So at some point in time, you have to put your foot down and you have to mandate and you have to let them know that, no, I'm serious. Like we can be cool and stuff, like off the court, for lack of a better term. But when it's time to step in between the lines, like I mean business. So I think like one quick check and whatever that is in your situation, like you said, you wanted to get them on the line that one time and you like kind of didn't do it because your other assistant was like, that's not really how we do things. But essentially that's how you do things. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you need to make sure that people understand that you mean business. And it's not an all the time thing. It's not an everyday thing, because then it falls on deaf ears and then your point doesn't get across as well. But it is tricky. But like I said, there'll come that one instance where you'll be able to let people know.
Aryn, do you have a question for the esteemed staff panelists?
Yes, I want to touch on with Kevin, and I'm sorry, is it Delane?
It's D-Lane.
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 You guys had interesting points, especially Kevin said, you know, don't just look for the hookup, look for the relationship first, you know, because at this time, like I've only played a year, like I was fresh out of college, played a year. So now it's kind of I'm just networking, especially during this quarantine. It's just like, you know, the perfect time to do it. And I found myself looking for the hookup, and then I wasn't coming off as genuine, and that's kind of not me. So that's why I was like, all right, that was like a good, you know, analysis of that. But also like trying to stir away from like basketball, because, you know, you both talked about how, you know, you worked at 19 years at your job, but you were still saying be visible within all of your networks, you know, because now I'm kind of like, all right, I'm done with basketball. I kind of want to leave that in the past, but then there's also like, that's kind of my identity as well. It's always, because everywhere I go, you know, they still ask about my former coach or my school. So it's kind of like you can't escape it, even though you try to. Like, how do you deal with that, even though, you know, you kind of want to, because I feel like for me now, I kind of want to do something other than basketball. But I also don't want to go down the line and just be like, well, not burn bridges, but I kind of, you know, didn't talk to people a while because I was just done with that world. You know?
I don't know if I can jump in and answer some of that. You probably shouldn't try to escape who you are, because that's what brought you success. And there's ways to transform it. It just might take a little bit more time than you might want it to. But definitely carry that banner proudly across your chest, across your back, on your forehead, because that made you who you are. And you'd be surprised at how many doors that it opens for you just because of that.
Okay.
In different arenas outside of basketball, just because, and that's what makes each one of us special, is because we were actually pretty good at what we did that separated us from and had you stand out from the crowd. And that you'll be surprised at how that can propel you in other arenas with different types of people, because they admire that. They admire that. They admonish that. The fact that you were that disciplined to be able to reach those sorts of levels, it just puts you in a different category as an athlete. An athlete in the corporate arena, the nonprofit sector, The athlete placed in any other arena is a different animal because of the things that we had to face. So you carry that and you let that work for you, because you'll be able to handle things that other people might not, just because of the conditions that you're used to working under, the conditions that you're used to pushing yourself under. It's who you are in your DNA. Don't hide from it. Figure out how to transform it and make it work for you.
And I just want to follow up from that. I think I struggled with that a lot. I just jumped in. Mark's like, you late.
Hi, Batouly.
Batouly.
I was like, let me just slide in. They're not even going to notice. Apologies. Forgive me. But I was just going to say, I struggled with that a lot as well. Trying to separate that initial identity. But I think it's a great starting point to segue from. And so for me, what that conversation looks like, oh, you played for here, or you did this, tell me about your coach. This was a great experience. I had an amazing time playing, and, this was that kind of career path, but I'm so excited about my next career, which includes XYZ. And then start speaking about that. And that's women and kids empowerment, or that's now navigating this new space. Are you familiar with that? And so that has created that leverage to where, okay, we've talked about that, but now we're transitioning into what I'm presently getting into. So that has really worked for me, as I've kind of battled the same thing as well.
Well, just for those that do not know, she played at University of Kentucky and then also UConn. So people are going to always continue to ask her how was Gino and all that UConn and stuff like that. During my research, I found seven things that they say elite athletes do well in the entrepreneurial world. Number one would be know exactly what you're trying to achieve. Athletes all know that. Two would be do not fear pressure. The third one was have grit. The fourth one is be in the moment and live in the moment and excel. The fifth one is uses competition to push themselves further. The sixth one is learn from losing as well as winning. And then seventh is never comparing themselves to one another, to other people. So I think those are 7 things that anybody that's transferable to any job profession. That's why, like Donna mentioned, athletes are a high demand as far as getting jobs in the real world because of those 7 qualities, in addition to you being who you guys are that made you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and have me and every trainer yell at you for doing X, Y, Z.
Can I jump in on that for 1 second?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that list, it's also like working with a team and working towards a common goal. I felt the same way. I hated the fact that when I forgot to mention this earlier, when I transitioned out of basketball, or in the process of transitioning, I met with like a lot of alums from my school, right? And I hated the fact that my association was, they only know that I'm a basketball player. That's the only reason that they're sitting with me. But being like honest, as Black people, we don't have a lot of resources to get us in the door to meet some of these people. And when we have an opportunity, whether it's through athletics or whatever abilities that we've shown to open that door, we have to utilize them. And being an athlete, as Delane mentioned, Donna, I'll just say Donna. Sorry.
Yeah, you can call me Donna. Everybody.
Donna. Is actually very sought after in many different types of sectors because of all the stuff that Mark was speaking about, like our competitive nature, our ability to work with a team, our ability to hold ourselves accountable. And they'll sound like cliche and good things, but when you're in the workforce or you're in the job setting, you'll realize there's a little bit of a separation between you and the people that you're working with. You have more drive than they do. You have the ability to dig a little bit deeper and get more done. And you're going to be successful. So like, I understand the thought process, like I want to leave basketball behind. I don't want to be associated with this, but it's kind of part of who you are. And it's something in basketball, the skills are very transferable. It's just finding something that you're passionate about, something that you want to do. And those same skills that made you a very good basketball player are going to make you very good at whatever you do next.
I also think we as a people tend to knock ourselves down and don't use those type of resources to kind of get into the door a lot of times. So even if your coach knows somebody that you think isn't going to be able to help you or can help you, I think that it's beneficial to still keep those open, because your coach does know a lot of people, and you'd be surprised at what other avenues your coach does know besides athletics. So I just think a lot of times we try to pride ourselves on kind of doing things on our own and not using our resources and not using our networks and not using who we know to kind of get us in the door. Because as soon as we get in the door, I mean, we're going to handle it and we're going to bust shit down and we're going to rock it out. So I would just use it. Everybody else uses it. And I would just continue to kind of tap into that and not shy away from it.
Yeah, I would add also to everyone, what everyone else is saying, but I'm just choosing you, Batouly. For instance, Gino owns 17,000 restaurants in Connecticut, right? If you were interested in doing X, Y, Z, maybe he would know somebody that you need to know to make a connection, say like, you should, oh, she wants to do this. I know this person that does this. And maybe you guys just take it off, and he did the networking thing and helped you guys come together. And then you just blow up. And next thing you know, you're owning Uncasville, Connecticut, or Mohegan Sun, whatever the case may be. I have a question. Let me go with Vanessa. Being that we are athletes and we played throughout, when did you find out who Vanessa was? When did you know who you were as a person?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think as athletes, we do get confused of like really who we are, because you just always identify with being an athlete. I'm just Vanessa, the basketball player. And, you know, everywhere I go, because I'm 6'3", everybody's like, oh, you play basketball. So it's like you always, you know, that's always like a shadow. It's like, it's good and it's bad sometimes. But I think that once I started my own thing, my own business, I was like, I saw who I was inside, trying to help other kids to get to where I am, you know. So it was when I started teaching young players how to play and, you know, how to get to that level, I saw like me inside those players, you know, like I saw what I really wanted to do in life. Like I kind of started identifying with who I was as a person. Like I needed to be able to help other people, and not just basketball players, but people in general, you know? So I think that basketball really helped to bring out that side of me, even though, you know, okay, it all started and end, seemed like it started and ended with basketball, but within the game and within what I was doing, I started identifying with who I truly am. And it's just a person who's trying to, like, you know, help that person to get to the next level. And in every way, even, you know, with the young kids, helping them get to the next level, with college players, trying to help them with, now that they're heading overseas, it's a pleasure for me to talk to a young player, to tell them what it's going to be like, because I didn't have that person to do that for me, you know? So I think that definitely within the game, I found out who I definitely was. So I think that you just have to keep searching. Like, you know, you don't completely know yourself until you keep searching for who you are, and you learn a lot of things about yourself every day. So
Coach Hamilton, when did you find out who Kevin was? Not number 32, whatever number you were. When did Kevin meet Kevin?
I feel like that answer is always evolving. You're going to be put in situations that make you think deeper and make you think differently throughout your life. But I identify myself as a hooper. I think a lot of the situations that I've dealt with in my life, I've kind of learned how to handle it from experiences from basketball. Like any situation that you can give me in life, I can give you a situation on the court that like parallels that, and you kind of teaches you how to attack it. Like, you know, never being a victim, always holding yourself accountable, never quitting. Those are things that you learn from athletics. Those things you learn from basketball. So I identify heavily with basketball, in terms of who I am now, I mean, obviously I'm a father, and that's the priority. And I work with kids, and I try to afford some of the kids that I'm working. I work in Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is like a rough area. So I try to afford some of these kids some of the luxuries that I had, or try to drop jewels on them for them to benefit from their situation. But yeah, I think it's evolving. I think that answer just comes with time.
Kollyns, do you know does Kollyns like to be? Would Kollyns like to become an artist?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm still trying to, obviously, I'm out who I am as a person, but like over this pandemic, I think that's what I'm really getting out of it is like, I've really kind of been on like a self-exploration, and kind of just figuring out like where people are like, you know, everybody's like, I'm picking up this, and I'm like, no, you know, I'm going to focus on what I actually enjoy doing. Like, why pick up a habit just because everybody else is picking up a habit and stuff like that. So I've just really tried to focus on myself. And I think one thing that I've learned throughout my basketball career and through this pandemic is when I have something in front of me, when I'm looking at something, I'm passionate about it. I love learning. I love knowledge, stuff like that. And I would consider myself an artist because I think on the court, you have to be creative. And I think in life, I just see myself as more of a creative, you know, and not in a sense where I can like draw or any of that, like in like the legitimate sense. But when it comes to abstract thinking and stuff like that, and like taking in other observations of life and kind of trying to see things from different perspectives, that's definitely who I would see myself as a person. I love trying to cross the line and, you know, try to, if I'm put in a box, I love trying to like break out of it and see what I can find and stuff like that. So now I think my next step is kind of creating something that I'm passionate about in a field, or, you know, getting into a field that I'm passionate about and kind of utilizing my way of thinking in that field. You know, I don't want to do something where it's like everyday mundane and stuff like that, but I want to use my creativity and be passionate about something that I'm going to do.
Donna, being that, piggyback on what Kollyns said, athletes are free spirits for the most part. How was it hard for you to transition to being a corporate person where you were that corporate cubicle? I'm sure you had a big corner office, but still, how was that transition?
It wasn't hard at all for me because of the level of confidence that I had. As a matter of fact, the most difficult thing was containing the confidence so that other people weren't afraid. Because we all know what it takes to be the big dog on the floor, right? You got to put the load on your back. You're responsible for leading the team. You know, you're going through the gritty situations. You know, and you never let anybody see fear, right? You never let anybody see you sweat, whether you're looking at the 6'5", 6'6" chick, right, Vanessa, that you may have to guard, and you know you 6'3", because I was always the underdog. I was the undersized power forward center at 5'9", guarding and playing against 6'5" in Brazil. You know, so it's the level of confidence that you bring, and it's the air about you. And that biggest adjustment for me was like, and you've heard it, you've all heard it, don't dim your light. You shouldn't have to dim your light for anybody. In the corporate world, people are afraid of that. If I spoke up about a situation, I would get, oh, don't be upset. Why do I have to be the angry Black woman because I'm speaking up on a situation that I don't particularly agree with, or I'm giving my opinion on something? Why do I have to be the angry Black woman? Or better yet, don't walk around the office like you own the place. Why? Because I'm confident that I know what I'm doing? You know, it's a difference between being confident and arrogant and cocky. In the corporate world, I found with the imbalance, you know, in the ratio of the racial balance, that a lot of people were afraid of just the confidence that I exude. And I mean, I think you guys can feel it just in the way I talk to you. That's how I carry myself. And I'm not going to back down from a situation, but you learn how to navigate. You have to learn almost like how to make other people comfortable in your presence. And that was probably the trickiest thing to learn.
Gotcha. Aaliyah Lewis just joined us. She just flew in from Staten Island. Aaliyah, we're talking about, you know, obviously a transition from on the court to actually the real world. Being that you just obtained your master's degree, congratulations from UIC. Can you talk about your next step as far as what your plans are, as far as real world?
It's still up in the air for me, but I know I'm very interested in coaching. I'm looking high school level. You know, get into school. I'm open to any school. Get into school, help these young ladies transition from high school to college, because, you know, I just came from a college program. So I have a lot of insight on, you know, what D1 coaches is looking for. So I'm looking to come to the high school level and develop, you know, these young ladies and help them be prepared when they step to the next level. So interested in getting into high school.
Okay. Batouly, thank you, Aaliyah. Batouly, are you there? I see a big B here. But I have a question, Batouly, if you're there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
When did you know who you were? Because you have a lot going on, and can you talk to everyone what you got going on regarding your country and what you've done within your country, and also the University of Connecticut?
Okay. I'm going to
turn your video on.
Got it. When did I know who I was? I think there are many instances of me having to step into who I was. I think you grow up knowing who you are in a sense, and it's just when you finally get to a point where you have to step into it to, I guess, live your best life or your ultimate life. And I think you can only do that from an authentic place. And I believe in transparent conversations. I'm really open with my journey and what I've kind of went through. And I think you get in moments where I knew who I was when I was stripped of everything. My greatest fear going to college was right after my injury. It was my sophomore year, and right after one of my injuries, I got into the game less than a minute left in the game. Again, I'm very open with that journey and that process, and I got it with a minute left, and it killed me. I think it killed every ounce of it just destroyed me. But at that point, I lived my biggest fear in life. And the first thing that coach tells you, he tells you two things. He says, you know, we don't have rules at UConn. We have 35 years of expectations. So if my more can do it, you can do it. And the second things he tells you in that initial meeting is, he says, you come here and you either succeed on the biggest stage in the world, or you fail on the biggest stage in the world. And at that moment, I felt like I had failed. And, you know, we always say, when we look at stories of athletes who are great, they always say, I come from nothing. And that's what I felt like at that moment. But I was so thankful I had a support system who said, no, this is who you are. And if you stop now, you're disrespectful to everyone who believes in you, who put in work for you to get there. And so it took me a time to dig deep after this game where I felt shattered, to dig deep and say, who am I at the core? And who's going to show up in practice tomorrow? Because, you know, Inky Johnson always says adversity hits, and it's not about adversity hitting. It's about adversity hitting and you not being who you thought you were. That's what hurts. And so in that moment, it was a choice to say, okay, Batouly, the first gen. It's hard to be a first gen. It's hard to be a Muslim woman. It's hard to be a woman of color. It's hard to be those things. And those who came before me, that's who I'm going to show up. And the person I want to be in the future, that's who I'm going to show up to be. So I think it was in that moment of being stripped of everything I loved. Again, you know, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't that deep. But at that moment, it was, oh, I'm going soul searching today. And this is who I am at the core. Seconds or no seconds, game or no game. I'll never show up to a game thinking I'm not going to play, because that's who I am at the core. And that's on everything. And how I do one thing is how I do everything. And that's how I kind of got to know Batouly.
So you have a lot going on with your extracurricular activities. What, as far as your movement is concerned, can you briefly talk about your movement? Because I think you have a different path than everyone else is going right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually thinking about everybody who told me not to go in that movement, but I felt so compelled. I felt so innate. It felt like stepping into purpose and why I was here, and that's Women and Kids Empowerment, a nonprofit I started in 2017, entered my junior year of college. And the first trip for me was going back to Guinea to hold basketball clinics. followed by doing trips to India and then to France. And, I look back on that organization that started with basketball camps, with 890 participants, 8 countries and 4 continents later, it has evolved to something so much bigger than myself, which was just creating opportunities for young girls to dream, because that's what people did for me. So I'm living my biggest dream every day, and I wanted that for young girls. And now, Women and Kids Empowerment, we're hoping to, build one of the first all-girls boarding schools in Guinea. That's, like I said, I think this is my purpose when the ball stops. So I'm really excited about that.
Aryn?
I have to jump in real quick and just let Batouly know Coach Shanae is so proud of you.
Shanae is my heart.
and you're her baby, and she's
oh my gosh,
super proud of you. I just had to let you know that.
Aryn, any questions that you want to ask real quick?
Nah, it was very profound. And yeah, shout out to Coach Shanae. Jones is like everyone's mentor. She's awesome. But yeah, Tuli hit it on, everybody said everything so profound,
Coach King, do you have any questions for the youngins that you might want to ask them that they should be, or give them advice that they should be prepared for what's going to happen in the next year or so?
I would just say, don't be afraid to explore different things. Don't pigeonhole yourself and kind of thinking what it is that you want, because in exploring other things, you might find out that it's something else that you might want to do. Enjoy the year of uncertainty. I know it's crazy. I know it's scary, but that's what's going to help you develop and to become the person that you are now. So uncertainty is scary. I mean, I hate it. But at that time when I was 21, 22 and just not knowing, I was like, cool, you don't have to know now. It's okay not to know now. It's okay to explore different things. It's okay to get involved with different things, nonprofits, corporate world. It's okay to kind of figure it out. And it's also okay not to know. For the first year or so to kind of explore and kind of do those things. So just as long as you have a pretty good support system, which I don't know most of you, but in my time at Hofstra, I had a chance of hearing about you guys. By the time I got there, I was on the back end of some of your careers and you guys were on your way to college. So, and just knowing some of your backgrounds and families and stuff like that, you guys have a pretty good support system. So I would just ride on that. But again, don't be afraid to experience different things and explore different things and enjoy the journey and enjoy the process.
Thank you, Coach King. Vanessa, give me 3 pitfalls that they should be aware of as far as going across the water overseas.
The biggest thing that you hear of, not getting your money, thinking a contract is actually a real contract. We get so excited about these contracts sometimes. And I think that the biggest thing for players is just really knowing where you're going to. So once you get that contract in your hand, or before you get the contract and you commit to a team, you need to research that team, the history, how they, call up a couple players and try to figure out who played there. You get your money on time, before time, or never get it. Just for example, I was in Italy a few years ago, and basically I felt like I hit the jackpot, but I didn't because they just stopped paying, and I left a good amount of money in Italy, and they say, okay, you can sue the team and you can go through this, and it just never works out like that. It's not that easy because you're dealing with an entirely different country, and the rules aren't the same. And there's just a lot of things that you have to go through when it comes to getting your money. So I think that's the biggest thing for athletes to really think about. And I think that being able to maintain your sanity while there, it's a culture shock for some. And but the thing is, try to get outside the box when you're there and explore, explore the culture itself. Don't be one of those players that just stay in the room and be on FaceTime all the time. A lot of players miss out on a lot of the culture because they're so afraid to explore the country. I think definitely enjoy it while it lasts, because it can be a long and great career, but if we don't take advantage of it while we're there, it could all be all for nothing. And then I think maybe the last would be just appreciate, basically live in the moment, because I don't know. Like I said, it always seems like it's going to last forever. And always think about, never put all your eggs in just basketball, because you like we were talking about, you're more than just a basketball player. So it's always great with a lot of profession, and even when you're trying to start a new business, there's the thing about like diving in 100% and giving your all to it. Definitely do that. However, with basketball, you have to make sure that you have something, that you're just not a basketball player. Like, you have something there that you can fall back on, because you can go out on the court and anything can happen, at that time. And it can be a real shock for you if you're not prepared for it. So just see yourself as more than a basketball player, and that's basically how I would say. So those are the three biggest things I would say.
Before I go to Coach Hamilton, because I seen him nod his head when Vanessa said, "Get your money," regarding getting the money. Vanessa, I searched high and low for a female agent to jump on, but there aren't that many female agents in basketball. Is that something that you may be considering or would consider, because you have an extensive history across the water and also know a lot of people here in America? Is that something you'd be interested in doing or looking into it?
And in a certain level, I actually thought about starting an organization, not necessarily being an agent, but navigating players to the right agencies, because there's so many agencies out there, and players get very excited about that. Oh, I've heard players call and they might say, "Oh yeah, I signed to an agent," but it's about how this agent's going to work for you. I went
Right.
through 3 different agencies in 13 years. Now, that's not too bad because I had a long career. However, the first 2 agencies, I went through those in the first 3. So it was like, you have to know who's going to be really there for you. I've been with my agent now for the last, 10 years. And but it took some maneuvering to get there. And some people never get there. So I don't know, that definitely the right agent is important. As far as with me getting into agencies, I'm actually, like I said, thinking about starting a organization to navigate players on how to deal with the overseas life and finding the right agencies and giving them the information that they need to go to that next level. So
that would be dope.
Yeah, that could be huge, because there's nobody to validate these agencies, especially coming out. All you know is, hey, somebody's interested, I'm getting a contract, I'm getting a look. And there's nobody to tell you, and that person don't really have the contacts. You might end up in the Philippines or, someplace just, off the beaten path. Sometimes that's where you got to go through to establish yourself. But again, that's needed, a necessary, area that nobody has filled.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's something that like you said, you find your path as you go on. And like one of my players that I'm gonna give away my age a little bit. One of my players that I coached, she was a young kid in high school. I coached her, and basically we just went over her contract a few months ago, and she signed to a team in Spain. But you know, she came to me to do the things that I want to do for so many other players, and you know, I was able to go over her contract, tell her what to go back to, tell her the agent that she wants in the contract, make sure the you know, there's certain things in the contract that is going to protect you in the way that the agents, they actually don't protect you. It's so hard because the right agencies will fight for you when you do run into situations, but the agent, at the end of the day, they want to sign the contract. They want that contract signed for their agent fee, right. You know? So it's like, you know, you just have to really definitely research and, you know, being that I played basically in all the countries in Europe, and I think that for sure I would love to help some young players to make sure that they don't get taken advantage of like I did, because there was a time in my career where I almost quit because I was like, this is crazy, you know, walking away from more like 20 grand and saying like, all right, you're not gonna get it, you know, and being like, all right, I just gotta move on. It was like, do I still do this because I don't trust this, or do I trust in now this new agent that's gonna make the path for me, you know? So I was able to help myself navigate through my mistakes, but it would have been great to have somebody there. So before you sign that contract, I'm telling you, reach out to people that's been there. Sorry,
listen, you might be onto something, sister. We might have to talk after this.
Oh, definitely.
I agree. Coach Hamilton, before we get to your experiences and not getting paid across the water,
how much time we got?
I know that Aaliyah's interested in joining the Department of Education, and I know that, you know, maybe you can lead her as far as navigating her through the whole nomination process and getting a file number and stuff like that. I can help her a little bit, but you're in it. I'm not in it anymore, and I'll connect you guys after this. But can you talk briefly about the pitfalls of overseas real quick, and also just dealing with coming back to America, like as soon as you land, like when you land?
You mean like literally when you land and it's over, right?
Like yeah, like what the F do I do now?
I think Vanessa spoke about the pitfalls very well. Like something else with the agency that I thought of when she was speaking is, you know, like when the team owes you money and you think the agent's going to bat for you, sometimes the agent doesn't want to ruin the relationship with that team because they're going to want other players to play for that team in the future. And so it's very complicated. That's a great business model and idea, and I hope you run with it because it's very needed. I think the pitfalls in terms of going overseas. You know, in my experience, what I found is, or I'm not going to say pitfalls, things that you just have to be prepared for, is when you go overseas, it's not the same environment like college, right? Now you've been on a team with people who have been fighting for a common goal for 4 years. You've established relationships with them, it's friendships, it's camaraderie. And sometimes you establish that with people overseas, but overseas is a business, and people over there have an objective, and their objective is to put themselves in a better situation for the following year. And then you have to deal with natives who sometimes may not necessarily like Americans, or they may not like the fact that a team is paying you so much money to come to their team and play over them. So it's just, I think, and then even, I can't even imagine as Black women, you know, like when you come overseas, I'm pretty laid back guy. But you kind of have to establish yourself with the organization as well as someone that doesn't take crap, as someone that will stand up for things, whether it's you're not satisfied with your apartment, whether it's the money being late, which is obviously something that if you play long enough, you're going to have to deal with at some point. And in being prepared for understanding what the situation may call for. What situation are you in your career? Are you in a position that, okay, I can leave this situation, I'm good financially, I'll still get a good job next year? Or are you in a situation where I may have to ride this season out even though I'm not getting paid on time because it'll be beneficial for my career next year? So it's a lot of things like but you have to understand that it's not just playing basketball for the love of the game anymore. It's a business, and you have to be prepared, like, to understand that you are now an entity. You're not just, you know, Kevin Hamilton or whatever. You know, now you're a business, and you have to take precautions, like Vanessa said. Do research on teams before you go over there. Make sure that they pay on time. See what the experience is like with management. You know, you have to do your research. It's not recreation anymore. It's a profession. And like I think I spoke already about everything that you should be prepared for in terms of transitioning. But the only thing I can say about that is just try to give as much thought to it as you can, as early as you can, and think about the things that you're interested in. You know, she's not here anymore, but you know, something I know it's a scary time when you're transitioning, but having the fact that you still have a career is a great benefit, because you have time to think about these things. I wouldn't rush it. You know, like, I know it's like, oh, I'm done with basketball. But if you have a job opportunity and you're not sure what you want to do, there's nothing that you're passionate about, you always can play another year or so, and take that and use that year to reach out to people. What are you doing now? What is it like? Use your coaches. Like, your coaches have established relationships with people in all different types of sectors and occupations, and speak to them about, what do you think my personality would align with? And, you know, just do as much research as you can. And, you know, just the fact that you're on this Zoom with Mark and all these women who have been in these positions that you want to be in at some point, shows initiative. It shows that you're already on the right track. Just, you know, use your resources. If anybody wants to speak to me directly, Mark can give you my information. That's basically it.
Thank you. Kollyns. Oh no, Aryn. Any questions that you have? Because I know that you're still pursuing, or you're teetering with stay in America, go across international business, and play. What, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, like what Donna talked about, kind of like working in the corporate world. Do you think that was more in like the sense of like working in America, or do you think that applies to overseas, that you may have to tone down your kind of confidence in order to make other people comfortable? Because that's kind of one thing I think, as like Black women, we've learned to, you know, be proud of who we are no matter what and the circumstances. So like for me, you know, this quarantine, like Colin said, you know, you kind of like developing new habits, or like just finding who you are. Or so I don't want to kind of like go back into like, all right, now I have to alter who I am in order to get this job, or that. I kind of during this interviewing process too, of just different career avenues I'm trying to go down, I don't want to lose myself just to get a job, in a sense.
Right. But that's a double-edged sword, because we all know what America is.
Yeah.
So we watching it every day on TV right now. So you know what that battle is. But when you're going into a different culture, kind of what both Kevin and Vanessa were touching on, you don't necessarily know how a Black woman is viewed in that particular culture. Like you mentioned Dubai, and I've been there. You know, I experienced, and I was there for business. I was there for like, I don't know, a week or 10 days. We had like some team building conference going on. And so I'm there in a corporate, you know, aspect. And I went from feeling that sometimes just like being there, you would see people, you walking down the street, and a man might look at me like a piece of meat, right? Or with some disdain, because I'm different from the women of their culture, or maybe not covered the same. Batouly can speak to that, because Dubai is a predominantly Muslim country. So it all depends on where you are as to how you're going to be perceived, and trying to navigate that and feel that out. You know, I couldn't give you like a cookie cutter answer for that, because every culture perceives Black and woman differently. And, you know, that's the battle that we all face. Black male, Black females, you know, it's like, it's a double-edged sword, because we wear it as one, but we're viewed in two different capacities. So, you know, it's, you kind of got to go into it with eyes wide open. And I was thinking about when Mark was saying, you know, when did you find yourself? He kind of asked all of us that question. And I always feel like you didn't choose basketball, basketball chose you. Because anybody can choose to pick up a basketball and try to play it, right? But it doesn't click like that for everybody. So everybody on this panel right now, you know, basketball chose you for one reason or another. And I think if you, like you asked a question about like moving away from it, I think, like I said before, it's part of your DNA, it's who you are, and you let that help you navigate as you go along. And I'm getting a little philosophical here.
That's good.
Mark, can I touch on some? So I actually experienced being in that corporate world, still being a player. This past season, I was, like I said, with the club that I was with, I was doing some work with them on the managerial side. Was actually had an opportunity to start my own organization over there in Spain and do some stuff. And this is crazy because Europeans are different. I don't know where you're going, but I just think foreigners are different in general. And they have a sense of entitlement to theirs. So it's like I felt as a Jamaican American going in there, you know, they know me as a basketball player in Spain, not as a person that's supposed to be coming in and working in the office and doing that. Like now you're stepping on my toes. You was only supposed to be there bouncing the ball downstairs. Why are you up here in the office? You understand what I'm saying? So that's the looks I was getting from these people. Now we would have board meetings and I'm in the meeting. My coach would be outside because they have another meeting after I meet with the president. And they're looking at like, what the hell is this girl? What was she doing? Now I got to go coach her, you know? And I don't know what she just told the president. And I'm like, my meeting had nothing to do with you. I'm over here doing my business. But they start looking at you and you just have to be prepared for that because they're very territorial. They're like, I've been in this club for however long and you're an American coming over here taking my job. You know, like I put time in and you're only getting this because you're Vanessa Gidden. And I'm like, no, I actually, and it's so funny because a lot of times you're actually way more qualified for that position than they are because you got the education, you got everything. And a lot of times when Europeans, they just kind of foster into position. They kind of like, okay, you've been with us for a while and we know you played in the club as a young kid and now you have a position in the office. That's how it usually works. With us, it's like, you know, we actually are qualified for this job. You know what you're doing. However, you are going to have those people that are going to look at you sideways. And I definitely experienced that. And a lot of things that I wanted to get kicked off didn't get kicked off because when we had the board meeting and the rest of them were like, yeah, we're going to help her. When the president left, I'm like, okay, guys, like, this is what we need to do. And they're like, looking at me like, why we got to listen to you? You're a player, like, you know? So it was the different because I was still I was a player and, somebody in the office. So it was kind of like, it was a little awkward for me. So then I started, like Donna said, like started kind of like trying to shrink myself to make it seem like, guys, I'm not really trying to tell you what to do, but I am kind of trying to tell you what to do. You know, it's kind of like, you know, and you try to do so much that, okay, president basically say, B, this is your thing. You need to tell who what to do. But then you end up trying to just do it by yourself because you're so afraid of telling them what to do because they look at you you're just a basketball player, you know? So just be prepared for that. And, you know, if I could do anything different than what I did in those situations, I would have been more assertive. I would have been more like, no, this is my thing, and I'm gonna it's gonna work. It's gonna happen. I kept throwing out dates. They're like, no, that date ain't gonna work because, you know, the culture here don't do that. We go on vacation at this time. I'm like, y'all sleep? I don't sleep. What you talking about? You know, and it's so crazy. Like it's different. So sorry, I'm just keep on talking, but it's a lot that you have to deal with when you deal with those Europeans. They're different. They're built different. And you see it when you're playing with them because they built real different on the court. And you just feel like they're a little softer. They're a little bit like, you know, you can't hit them too hard. It's the same way that they are when you're working with them. You can't look at them too hard. You can't tell them really what to do. You got to find a way how to get them to do what you're trying to do without being too hard at them. It's difficult. It's different.
You know, it's crazy because you look around at all the things that are going on now with the protests and everything and all of this brutality and stuff. And I just had this conversation with somebody last night. People are really scared of us. Like non-Black people are really scared of Black people for fear of the internal power that we actually possess, intelligence, the ability to get things done. You know, that's where all of this brutality and you know, for the police is coming from. You're afraid of the Black man because of what he's capable of doing, and not on a negative note. What if everybody was to wake up and actually channel in and tune into what they are actually able to do? You know how intelligent we are? You know, aside from being athletic, you know, and that's where all of this racist and negativity and all of this stuff, that's where it feeds from, the fear of the power that we actually possess. If everybody was to actually wake up, what would we look like as a people? Damn, Donald. Yeah, I'm serious. You know, I got on my rap, you know, brain is marinating. It's all flowing out, but it's for real. Mm-hmm. I had this conversation with someone last night. That's what the fear is of Black females, Black males. We're a threat because of the power that we actually possess, and they know that. And this is why they try to keep us down, keep us separated. So to Aryn's question, you know, you're gonna have to, you can't go in guns blazing, because that's an automatic no-no. That's what they're expecting you to do, right? So you gotta kind of play that wolf in sheep's clothing. Survey your surroundings, see how they're coming at you, see what they're presenting to you, see how if they accept you, because not all of them are not bad. And you know, Vanessa was speaking to, like, you know, especially the Europeans. You know, you got some that kind of get it and are sensitive to situations and can appreciate us for who we are. And then you got the old boys club, which is everywhere. But you gotta survey your landscape. Don't be afraid to stick your toes in. Don't be afraid to get your nose nipped. You know, so you gotta experience it to know how to navigate it. If you don't experience it, you won't know what to do. I mean, same thing with, you know, playing ball in game situations. Like, if you're not out there, you're not gonna know what to do. Right. Practice is different from a game.
Quick question before we go. Kollyns and Aaliyah both said that they're interested in coaching on a high school level or a club level or youth level. Why, Kollyns, why you chose that route? Or interested in that route, and Aaliyah, being that you just came from college, is that the reason why you decided to go with the youth route? Because you just came from college. Go ahead, Kollyns first.
Okay. I think me as a coaching wise, when I used to do coaching in when we used to do like college coaching in summer, or even coaching in the past year when I was working with my U16s, U18s, I felt my strongest suit and what I was really passionate was about, like, developing the kids. You know, some coaches take pleasure in, like, the X's and O's and stuff like that. And while I love the beauty of the game when it comes to a technical perspective, what I enjoy most is seeing a girl that doubted herself, like a girl that literally was like, I can't dribble with my left hand, coach. I can't. And then getting her to a point confidence-wise and ability-wise in the next few weeks to look at it and go like, no, I can do this. I can do that. And, like, developing in that way. And the reason why I want to work on, or in high school or even lower with 12, is because I think that's where you can really model passion. It might be just from my personal experience, but when I was 12 years old, I had a fantastic coach in my CYO program that really, he pushed me and, you know, made me really passionate about the game to a point where it built my competitiveness, and it also built my confidence on the court in a sense where I knew I wasn't the best at the time, but I was like, if I work hard enough and if I'm able to, you know, match myself up with the best player I possibly can, then every team I'd be on, if I'm not the best player in the beginning, I knew at the end of it, I'll be the best player. And that happened for me high school. You know, I played with a McDonald's All-American, and some people in the beginning was like, who is this girl, whatever, like da-da-da-da. But at the end of it, you know, they saw me and they were like, they can't win without her. And then in college, I might have, you know, been a freshman and they were like, oh, who's this girl? But at the end of it, they were like, they need her on the court. You know, so I think because he developed that competitiveness in me and, you know, built that confidence within me, it helped me propel me not in only life, but on the court. And I want to do the same for young athletes. And I think getting them at that younger age, it's where I think that key development happens, because when I hit college, you know, my passion was instilled. You know, I couldn't rely on my coach to be like, keep pushing me. At that point, it was me. I had to push myself, you know. So I want to reach them at a younger age, I guess.
Got you. Aaliyah?
Can I just say something with the Kollyns?
Okay.
Sorry. You could do that at the college level as well. I'm very passionate about, you know, seeing a kid being maybe last off the bench, and then by her junior or senior year, she's in all conference, all league, all this and all that, and it's kind of a shock. So like for me, I thrive off of that. So I would just say, in anything that you guys are doing, it's super important to know your why. So that was told to me early on. And as long as you know your why, and as long as you stay true to what it is that you believe in and that you want to do and what you're trying to get across to the young student athletes or the kids in college that you're working with, like you'll be able to do that. So that's just a little tidbit, because I loved AAU in high school as well. Like I was all about it. I was like, this college thing, I'm not really too sure, you know, about it. And I got here, and when I realized that I could still do the same things for college students as I could in high school, I was all about it. So, and it just also depends on, one more thing, sorry, that the program and the coach that you work for, they have to be along, in line with you and what you believe in and kind of what you stand for. You know, so fortunately for me, I've had some rocky ones. The one that I work for now is great. We're right on line with how we want to do things, how we want to present our kids and prepare them for when they graduate, and, you know, even while they're in school, and talking about the difficult issues. So I think it's extremely important that if you do look to get into college, you also do your research on who you're going to quite possibly work for. Ask around, talk to people. I mean, you know, you have friends that played for, you know, certain colleges all around. So just do your research on that aspect as well. But you can definitely do what you want to do at the college level as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Aaliyah, because you mentioned high school. Why?
Why at that level?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it'll give me a different feel. Just saying, you know, at the collegiate level, I truly enjoyed it. But I think the high school game was just, I don't know, I just feel more, I don't know, that's just something I wanted to do, I guess, just working with high school players. And like I was saying before, like I have a lot of insight on, you know, what can get you to that next level. Like that once you're at the collegiate level, like I know what coaches are expecting, like, you know, skill-wise, you know, mentally, everything. So I was just wanting to work at the high school level because I can help them. I know what the collegiate coaches want. So,
Got you. Got it. Makes sense to me.
like I know what coaches are expecting, and I think that would be best.
We're going to wrap up because it sounds like it's an hour and a half already. Oh my God. Batouly, any passing closing words for you, Batouly, Aryn, anyone? Batouly's going out, or Batouly's at. Kollyns.
I just want to say, sorry. I just say thank you for all the gems everybody dropped, you know, especially at like this young age. Like I just turned 23. So this is very insightful, especially like, you know, former athletes and current athletes, and especially transitioning into something other than basketball and, you know, preserving that, my identity within that too. I appreciate all of that.
Yes, I appreciate it as well. We're changing location.
This is locations.
I'm like, I am. And this is recording. But thank you so much. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Wow. Kollyns?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you as well. You know, it's amazing. You come into these and you're like, we're going to talk about basketball and coaching, and, you know, I'm going to get a little insight on that, but you get a lot of life perspective and life lessons from a bunch of people that, you know, are successful in their fields, and it kind of just, it's nice and it's humbling in a way to show that, you know, people start from different backgrounds and stuff, but they end up, you know, successful, and it kind of helps you because you're like, you know, you kind of question yourself a lot at young ages and stuff like that, and then you see people that, you know, sat in your shoes and did their jobs and, you know, got through it all, I guess, and so it's great for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Coach Hamilton, anything you want to part us with?
No. I think this was great. I enjoyed speaking with all of you. Kollyns, about coaching in high school, right? And I'm sure Denise can speak to college a little bit too. You know, and I don't want to discourage, because, you know, even when Aryn was getting information from Donna, you know, I think we're just trying to prepare you for the stuff that you're going to see, right? But I think that both of you guys are very bright young ladies. Kollyns, you're built to be a coach. It's all in your demeanor. But there's challenges. At the high school level, you're going to have to understand not every girl that you're going to coach is going to have the same level of passion that you do, right? And that's going to be frustrating. At the college level, like Denise was speaking about, if the coach isn't aligned with what you're trying to do, that could be frustrating, especially you being a former player, maybe even knowing a little bit more than the person who's ahead of you. You know, there's a lot of things to consider and just prepare yourself for. But if you approach it with the passion that you've had in this chat and that you've had as a player, I'm pretty sure you'll be fine. And like, I appreciate all you guys. And if anybody wants to get in contact for future advice or anything like that, you can get my information from that.
Will do. Thank you, Coach Hamilton. Vanessa?
This was great, guys. Thank you. You know, you learn something every day and about other people's experience. And I like to log on to these meetings because you just get to see and learn other people's background and where they're coming from and how you can navigate your own situation. So as much as advice as, you know, you're able to give, you're able to also receive a lot of insights from others. So I think this is great, Mark, what you're doing, and definitely keep going. Donna, we definitely can connect for sure. And Kevin, who all the, you know, anyone, the young ones, if you, you know, Denise, we definitely, you know, the Hofstra connection, we should all connect on any level. Like, I'm open to staying in contact with anyone. And if you need anything, you can reach out to Mark for my information, or, you know, just let him know that it's okay to give it. So, all right. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lane?
Yeah. Second what everything Vanessa said. No, I think this is like our version of the real, you know, an opportunity to feel in a safe space and share, you know, best practices. My biggest thing, I think, my biggest takeaway, what I would want everyone to take away from this, for me, is participate, experience, and be visible in whatever it is you want to do. So whether it's basketball related or not, like if you want to coach, you need to be out there, you know, participating in clinics, and that way you're networking with coaches. You know, kids start to see who you are. Kids remember people. I'm one of those people that I don't know a kid, but I'm always coaching. So, you know, tuck your elbow when you follow through. They looking at me like, who are you? But they'll remember me the next time they saw me. So that visibility is huge. The networking. And even if it's not basketball related, just if it's something that's your passion, you know, get involved, because that's where you start to build the relationships that Kevin was talking about. So participate, experience. That'll really let you know if you really want to do it, and stay visible.
Coach King?
Yeah, yes, I'm mute.
She's, I don't know if she's at.
My fault. The only thing that I would piggyback on off of everybody, this is great. The networking is great. Stay in contact with everybody. Don't just reach out to people when you need something, for lack of a better term. And then lastly, like, don't compare your journey and your process to anyone else's, because the minute you do that, the minute you get involved in the mental game of things, or the why is this person doing this but I'm not, and then it kind of deflates you and your confidence that you have. So I would just say, keep your eyes on the prize, pay attention to your own path and your own journey, and don't compare yourself to anybody else but the best version of yourself that you want to be.
Aaliyah?
Totally agree with that, Coach King. Definitely, you have to just focus on you. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Just keep your head straight. Don't look left. Don't look right. Just stay on your goal. Yeah, I enjoyed everyone. Coach Hamilton, I definitely would love to speak with you after this call. We can exchange contact. I'll surely appreciate that. But yeah, everyone, just stay focused, you know, on what you want to do. You guys just stay on your grind. You'll see what you want to do.
Well, I want to end it and say thank you guys for all your help, dedication to helping the next generation and younger generation for reaching back or reaching up and, you know, taking the advice that these young ladies and young men have to offer you guys. Thank you. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thank you. Getting our log off. Bye. Thank you guys.
See y'all.